Let's start off with what was a great game last night. SheBelieves Cup. Canada right out of the gate taking on the Americans, the defending champions of this tournament. The Canadians playing in it for the first time. No Christine St. Clair, no Jordan Huitema. As we know, Kadisha Buchanan, Ashley Lawrence, Diana Matheson, Erin McLeod. Let's name all these players who were not there. But you know what? The Canadians showed up. It was still a 1-0 loss. The Americans scoring in the 79th minute. But there was a lot of drama. And Gareth, I don't want to bury the lead. Were the Canadians robbed of a potential victory here? Or I should say at least robbed of a goal?
A victory might be pushing it, but I think it's very harsh on the Canadian women that they didn't come away with something, because clearly they were presented, gift-wrapped a couple golden goal-scoring opportunities. Janine Beckie couldn't capitalize twice, but it's really the penalty claim and shout, which really should have gone down before the Americans scored through Rose Lavelle in the 79th minute. I don't understand how the match official, the Mexican match official, who's right there, has a perfect vantage point on Midge Purce extending her arm out. It's an unnatural position for her arm to be in. It's away from her body. It's made her body bigger. I'm wondering why the Canadian players on the field didn't protest more. The bench certainly did. That was a stonewall penalty for me, and that should have been given. Canada, they could have capitalized. You're up 1-0. They were never going to take the game to the Americans. And it's even with Sinclair and Buchanan and Lawrence in the team, they were never going to take the game to the U.S., but the defensive shape limited the U.S. to opportunities that came from really the outside. They didn't have the goal-scoring opportunities that Canada did over the course of the game. I thought the game plan absolutely worked. The commitment was there. The organization was there. I thought the draw would have been a fair result, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the problem I have with this is that we talk a lot about how do we get rid of dissent to the referees and crowding the referees and diving in embellishment to try and sell decisions. And obviously, most of that responsibility, I'm not denying, is on the players and coaches to behave themselves in an appropriate way on the field. But they won't do that if they don't feel confidence that if they don't appeal and they don't crowd the ref, the correct decision is going to be made. And that decision for me is pretty hard to understand with the view the referee has, the extension of the arm, the complete non-attempt from Purce to get her arm down to her side and out of the way. How that decision isn't made is pretty mystifying to me. And if I'm the Canadian team after that, if I was Bev Priestman, I'm going to be telling the players, you've got to appeal, you've got to crowd the ref, and you've got to make sure she knows, what everyone else has seen that she apparently hasn't. And that's not what we want in the game. But it's something that if the referees aren't going to make the call without that kind of pressure and influence, then players are going to continue to do it.
The thing is, this isn't an isolated incident. Like, 2012 still seems like it played out yesterday. Why is the best team in the world getting the benefit of the doubt in a situation like that? It happens US, Canada in the men's game as well. Like, at some point, this needs to end, and hopefully Canada is given the respect that it certainly deserves, and the calls start to level out a little bit. I mean, Shalina Zadorsky, the ball came up and hit her hand. Her hand was down, and it wasn't extended from her body. That was never a penalty in the first half, but that one right there should have been. And like I said, Canada goes up 1-0. Andy, there's no question in my mind that they could have seen out that game. They would have been under pressure, but they did a very good job defensively over the course of the match. So small margins, and it came to bite Canada last night. Nothing of their own doing.
Yeah. Well, I think we can say this as Canadians, that a lot of times we pride ourselves on not getting into the face of a ref, on keeping things calm, professional. But sometimes you could take pride in that to a fault. And you need to remind the ref there's something a little squiggly going on over here. But Bev Priestman, when she was asked about it afterwards, she obviously was disappointed, but then turned around and said, we can't rely on calls to win us games. So let's go all into the chances that the Canadians had, and should they have won the game based on those?
Well, yeah, they had a couple of big ones, and one big one in particular for Janine Beckie in the second half, where she's really got to score. And this is something that is becoming a little bit of a recurrence with Janine Beckie. This is the one in the first half, which was also a good chance. The one in the second half is even better. But this is a player who has so much pace, works so hard. She's a real workhorse up and down the pitch. She's got a lot of technical quality. She's simply got to bury that. And it is, you know, when you think back, you can't help but think back to the last World Cup where she missed, obviously, that crucial penalty against Sweden. You think back to the Olympic qualifying final where she missed a very, very good chance at 1-0 to the USA that could have leveled the game. If Janine Beckie, and she does have a very good goal-scoring record for Canada, but in these big games and in these big moments, if she can add that killer instinct, then there isn't a Canadian player who's more important to the attack than Janine Beckie is. But that killer instinct has just been missing a little bit, and it's cost Canada in a couple of big games now.
Janine Beckie, well-known name. We did see some new faces. Anyone in particular, Gareth, impress you?
Well, Vanessa Gilles stole the spotlight, didn't she? She had 20 clearances over the game. And of course, the Bordeaux center back, it was only her third cap. I mean, she was a pillar of strength. It was a good partnership between Gilles and Zadorsky. And if you're looking at potential center back spots to go to the Olympic Games, I mean, based upon that one performance, and yes, it's just one performance, she has to have put herself right in the mix because you're going to go up against potentially top teams. We're going to have to soak up a lot of pressure. I like to see her, how Gilles would perform in a much more open game, but her commitment, the organization, the strength was excellent. Coming into this one, I had questions about potentially there being a battle at left back. Alicia Chapman just continues to produce. Like, she's just strong, she's committed. I thought she was excellent. Jessie Fleming in the middle of the park just ran miles and miles and miles. And a shout out to Quinn as well. They played very well. Quinn can play center back, but potentially a midfield role with the likes of an Ashley Lawrence coming in, a Jessie Fleming. You start to maybe see a little bit different of a construction in the center midfield where you have a little bit more legs and a little bit more technical ability than what we've seen at that position in recent years.
Yeah, I agree with all of those, Gilles and Quinn in particular, and I just had Nichelle Prince in there as well. Maybe her composure just left her a little bit in the final third when she had a couple of good chances, but I thought the work she put in at centre forward, normally she's out on the wing, but obviously with no Sinclair, no Heitema, she plays through the middle. I thought she ran really hard. She got back into midfield to help defend. She linked the play up well. She made good runs behind the centre backs. I think could be a real option for Canada at centre forward in certain situations based on what she showed last night, because it was a really strong performance.
And guys, we shouldn't be surprised about what Stephanie Lebay has done. She's been the goalkeeper of choice for the last few years, but as we know, Kaylin Sheridan got the start just a few minutes in. Yeah, goes down with that injury. Lebay comes in, doesn't miss a beat. I mean, the shots were 28-9 for the Americans, 10-3 on target. So she was definitely being acrobatic and keeping the Canadians in that match, that's for sure. But Ollie, what did you see from Team Canada that you liked? What would you like to see them do better in?
I saw a lot that I liked, and I think when you look at the top level of football, men's or women's, all over the world now, in modern football, the best teams are the teams that are proactive. They're aggressive, both with and without the ball. They want to play and build out from defense and control the ball from their own third. They want to play against the ball by pressing and being very aggressive and trying to get the ball back quickly when they lose it. And I think that's something that we've just not seen from Canada over the past 2 or 3 years. I think they've been a passive team, a team that kind of has allowed their opponents to dictate the game to them. They've lacked aggression and incision in attack. And I thought we saw, the complete opposite of that last night. And to such an extent for Bev Priestman's first game, with so many key players missing, that I was really surprised and really impressed by how many different good things we saw in terms of the bravery of the team in possession, trying to play through the thirds, play through the midfields, rather than just playing long. The reaction as soon as they lost the ball to try and get it back. The pride they took in not being easy to beat in terms of players dribbling past them, America passing through them. I thought they were really dogged and determined in that regard as well. So it was a Canadian team that was just much more proactive and aggressive and intense than I think we've seen for, ever since John Herdman was in charge, really. So you can improve all of that stuff. They can do all of that stuff better than they did last night, and there were times where they made mistakes. But overall, I thought it was a really positive performance.
Yeah, just quickly on this, Andy, like a couple pronounced differences between the way that Priestman's team played in just one game and the way that Kenner Heiner Muller's group went about. they played with much more purpose, to Ollie's point. Like the movement, it wasn't just keeping the ball and passing laterally all over the park. They were progressive in their play. I love how they've gone away from the 3 center backs, playing 4 at the back. It's going to be much better for this group going forward. And the way that the number 9 in Prince dropped a little bit deeper to defend, I think it allows more dynamic play through the wing as well in attack. So I liked all that. Yeah. Something that I want to see. And you're going up against the United States, an absolute juggernaut who are deep at every position. But it's that physicality. For me, Lindsay Horan had her way in the middle of the park a little bit too much. I think that it's not something that you can maybe do from a technical perspective, but you're going to need those physical players that can knock some of these bigger bodies off the ball. It's just that sheer aggression that the United States have. You need to find a way to close that gap and match it, whether it be in personnel or otherwise, because at times, I mean, you just get bullied to a certain extent, and that can't be the case against some of these bigger nations. So they're going to have to find some solutions, some way around it.